Now we are going to hop into quarterfinals, best of 5 beginners division between Trumpet and Pez. Just going to wait for the players to get on with it. Hope everybody's having a great Friday night. Let me just do a little OCD. There we go. Hey, we've got Pez here. Alright. Ready to roll. It's good to see everybody. I hope everyone's having a great weekend. This should be a fun match. I think I've also got some premiere matches coming up on Sunday. There's also a ton of other streamers. There's actually been so many people streaming this event. That's really cool to see. I know Solomon's been streaming. I think Marmu's been doing a little streaming. Of course, you got Jet and me and Tosh. Really great. Love to see more content creation. Solomon's even been doing like YouTube videos and stuff, so that's awesome. I think that's one thing we really need in the modern Tooth and Tail, is like some video guides kind of going over like the basics for beginners and stuff, or like, hey, here's a couple viable decks, or here's some like do's and don'ts of the early game. You know, I see that a lot when I ladder. You know, I'll get placed against a lot of you guys and, you know, win some, lose some, whatever. Or I'll play against a beginner who you can see what they're thinking, but they just don't know yet. Like, hey, you can't just build an expansion with 4 farms and 1 turret or something, you know? Like, that's just not going to work. But there's only one way to learn, the same way we all did, and that's trial by fire, right? So there you go. I'd love to see that. I think there's definitely a need in the scene for more kind of guide videos, you know? Mishi did a few of those for a little while. They were really cool. Well, we just got to wait a little bit here for Trumpet. And we will get on with it. Hey, thanks for the follow, Bomb. Good to see you. Just give us a few minutes, guys. What else is going on in the scene? I'm still doing replay shows, obviously. I just did a mini one, so don't be shy. Submit replays, ToothAndTailTV@gmail.com. I try to generally be positive, so if you're like a beginner, you know, I'm not going to make fun of you or anything like that or be too critical. I can normally, how do I put it? So kind of when I cast, it's between 2 different ways. Like, if I know the players are really good, I'll be more critical and I'll talk about mistakes and stuff like that. But if I know the players are beginners, then I'm not going to highlight it and be like, why the hell are they doing this? It's because they're new. It's all good, brother. Not everyone's playing to be a super tryhard. Some people are just having fun. So don't be afraid if you're a beginner to send me replays. I will not crucify you. I'll just give you some casting. That's why I like that aspect of the feast. Like, my ideal, I never vet replays because I like to do my genuine reaction. I blanked on the word for a second. But like, my ideal night for a feast would be a couple just silly games, you know, crazy games where people are doing weird builds. Maybe a couple beginner games where people submit and I can kind of give them some pointers and, you know, learn a couple things. And then some like expert games where it's like, all right, you know, let's see what the top players are up to. Let's see this guy versus the gentleman or something. So yeah, 2v2s, free-for-alls, it does not matter. We can do whatever. I have been getting good submissions though lately. I think I've got like 20 or 30 in the bank, which is nice. That does not mean do not send them to me. You can send them to me on Discord. It's no big deal if you do, but I do prefer if you email me at ToothAndTailTV@gmail.com because I'm less likely to miss it. Because basically when I'm getting a feast together, I check my email, I download all the replays, I put them in, I get everything named, and then I kind of pick and choose. You know, typically what I shoot for when I put together the replay show is as many unique names as possible, right? So if I could get 12, I always do 12 matches ideally. So if I could get 12 matches with 24 different players, like that's ideal. You know what I mean? So yeah, oh, there he is. All right, Trumpet is here. So here we go. We're hopping right into it. The quarterfinals, best of 5 for the beginner division. Now, refresh my memory, Mocha. Whoever loses this, they go to relegation, right? They're not just like straight up out. But here we go. Oh no, this is it. Okay. So this is single limb. So this is for all the marbles. Whoever loses here is out of the tournament. We've got on the left Pez and his opponent to the right, Trumpet. Pez, another old school name, man. We've seen a lot of them lately. I love to see it. And so is Trumpet, I believe. I think I remember a player named Trumpet from back in the day. Both players with balloon here. Squirrel skunk from both sides. But Pez has kind of got an interesting strat. Like the ferret owl is pretty cool. You know, you've kind of got... I like Pez's strategy. It's pretty interesting. It's like, okay, I've got Squizzard for the early game. You know, transition into skunk. I can do ferrets and balloons if that's kind of what the map or the situation calls for. If we get into a bit of a standstill. And then, of course, he's got that big late game owl to get into. Meanwhile, Trumpet is a little bit more straightforward with the skunk chameleon pick in the early game. He can put together a very strong push, you know, on the back of those skunks with the cams. The cams are nice, of course, to push, but I feel like cam pushes are better when there's like an expansion or something. Like trying to push cams into a really fortified main can be difficult, but skunks are better in that position because they can sit there and kind of poke, you know, with the gas. Of course, having the pigeons on the front lines to heal those bruiser tier 2 units is always great, and everybody knows the badger pigeon synergy. The balloon pick here is kind of interesting from Trumpet. Maybe kind of anti-fox or anti-ferret as well. Or maybe something to just kind of hunker down if he can cut off a nice section of the map. So we see Trumpet getting into a pretty quick tier 2, but not overly greedy. Pez looked like he wants to get something done on the map with these lizards, but doesn't quite see the opening. And so far, I like Trumpet's opening a little bit better. He's going to get into his tier 2 faster. He's going to have the opportunity to get something done. But again, I don't feel like a single pair of cams, like attacking into the main straight up, is exactly what you want if your opponent hasn't been doing anything super greedy. So Trumpet might need to hold off a little bit. The cams will be really nice defensively. Ooh, he's going to get a pig, and he even forced the sell on that warren. So those lizards getting done a little bit more than I thought. However, he lost a lot of them, so if Trumpet pulls the trigger right now, he can maybe get some counter damage in, but it looks like Pez is going to be just fine. So nice little early game victory there for Pez. I mean, Trumpet was a little bit out of position, and Pez really took advantage of it. Here we go. Trumpet's moving out, but Pez has had time to recover from losing those first few lizards. And again, this is a little bit difficult to push into, just with chameleons here. Ideally, you want to kind of push into cams on an expansion or on a less fortified position. You know, like fighting Pez out here in the open was really nice for Trumpet. I think that was a bit of a misplay from Pez. He probably should have just tried to hunker down into his main, you know, push off the squirrels off his warrens with the skunks. You know, that extra pig damage and warren tanking against the cams really makes a difference. But Pez pushes this back. Trumpet overstaying his welcome a little bit. He might have, lol. He probably should have just taken the money and run after he gotten that first hit. But I could see it. He smelt blood in the water. You know, he wanted to get some more damage in. And he did get a warren, which was nice. But losing both to tier 2, Pez kept both his skunks up. And balloon on the way here for Pez. Gonna try to hunker down a little bit. And I don't mind it. It is a big investment. I'd like to see him maybe be a little greedy on the back of that balloon. Perhaps go into tier 3 or really farm up to kind of justify its existence. Oh man, Pez needs to be careful if he's not in position to, with his units here. Trumpet could just get in and do a ton of damage. You know, if Trumpet just focus fires down that balloon or finds an angle or baits Pez out. Alright, so he is going to take the engagement underneath the balloon. And the balloon actually gets its first 2 shots off on the chameleons. Absolutely ideal here for Pez. And he's got his skunks left over, and he's got this balloon covering his skunks. So yeah, this is going great for Pez. Trumpet really needs to make it happen. He's going to try to focus that balloon down, but these skunks here are just really hard countering the squirrels, and this is kind of the risk you take when you only run squirrels. You know, if you got Squizzard here, Squizzard, in my opinion, can beat, you know, Squirrel Skunk, but Squirrel... This is Squizzard Skunk, though. Like, Squizzard Skunk is a pretty solid combo. Even sells off the cams, going to try to hunker down with these squirrels. It can work, but you need to have some really good micro. You need to, like, focus those skunks down immediately, back your units out of the gas. But you got to be careful even doing that because, you know, you're taking free hits when you're running away with your units, right? So here we go. Here's the big engagement. Pulling back for now. I think that went okay for both sides. Gonna try to harass these squirrels with the skunk. One goes down. That's huge for Trumpet. That's exactly what he needed. This balloon is getting a lot of work done. I think it's finally going to go down. Definitely got some value, though. Oh, the one skunk will fall as well. However, Pez got enough to clean it up. And Trumpet just doesn't have an economy. He realizes it. Taps out. Pez takes game number 1 here. No nonsense here. Players are hopping right into the next game. Let's rock and roll. On the left, we've got Trumpet. And on the right, fresh off a win, we've got Pez. This time around, Trumpet utilizing those snakes rather than the cams. Yeah, cams can be difficult, man. Like, they are really great in direct fights, but you need to engage properly. You can't just YOLO in there with them. The snake tech is kind of cool. Try to tag down those skunks. He's got his own skunks this time around as well. Can't recall if he had them last game and he just didn't build them. And both players again with the balloons. We did see the balloon work very nicely for Pez last game. But I think Trumpet could have approached it differently. You know, he didn't necessarily have to attack into that area with the balloon. He could have just, you know, ecoed up himself and spent that extra 120 food into farms. He could have tried to find another angle to attack in with. But a nice victory there for Pez. So let's see how these players go this time around. A little bit of pre-8 farm Warrens hitting the ground, but both sides have it scouted. They both know what's up. It looks like Pez is the one who initiated that. Trumpet responded, but it's going to be no harm, no foul. We don't have those fast lizards. They weren't crazy early Warrens. And we just got a double opening here. So let's see what it's going to be. Typically what you're looking for at this phase of the game is a Tier 2 Warren, 2 more Tier 1s, or an expansion. It looks like it's going to be Tier 2 for Trumpet. Let's see what Pez decides. Also Tier 2. And then an expansion very quickly after. From Trumpet this time around. So Trumpet's taking the initiative to get this into a macro game. And I always find it fascinating how players respond after they scout that mill, right? And Pez actually didn't scout it. He did see the Tier 2. Both sides have seen the Tier 2 of their opponents. But Pez did not see the Warren. He kind of walked right by it out of his vision. And it's always interesting to me how people react after they see an early Warren, or early mill, rather, from their opponent. You know, do you say, all right, now I've got a chance to build a bunch of tier 1 and try to attack in? Or do you say, all right, you want to play macro? We can play macro. And that's what Pez decides this time around. Going to grab his own Warren in response. So, most likely, well, let's see. Pez is flirting with the idea of moving out here. Gotta drop a squirrel to that cabin, but no big deal. You can take those out without losing anything, but if you lose a single squirrel, normally it's not a huge issue. But this normally, in lieu of a direct attack, sometimes you'll see somebody in response to the mill take their own mill and then not build any farms, just kind of have his fake out. But this really, when we get to this phase of the game, becomes a match of scouting. You gotta keep an eye on how many farms your opponent's building, you gotta keep an eye on what tech they're going for, and try to respond accordingly in a way that puts you one step ahead. If I'm Trumpet, I'm probably happy to see the balloon there. Because Trumpet can say, alright, fine, you know, have your balloon, I just won't attack. I'll build a bunch of farms or I'll get a badger. Oh, and it looks like he's going to go for the badger, and he's going to go for a hidden badger over here. Which is a little bit of a double-edged sword. It is oftentimes worth the risk to try and do something like this with your badger, or your tier 3 in general, because you want to blindside your opponent with tier 3, right? That's when it's the most effective. You don't want them to get that scout in the 90 seconds while it's building, because then they're just totally unprepared. But you run the risk, especially with blizzards here. You know, if Pez does scout this, it's basically dead. Basically dead. If you're lucky, you can sell it. Whereas if you got the tier 3 in the main base, it's like, yeah, it's going to get scouted more likely, but it's going to be safe. It's going to come up. So it's a little bit of decision making there. In general, though, I do think this is the smarter way to go. Well, smarter might be the wrong word. Like high risk, high reward, right? And this is looking good for Trumpet so far. Pez going to start a little bit of ferret harassment, but loses his commander. Trumpet can just hop right on this ferret. Take that out for free. That's a big victory there. And yeah, this is not good for Pez. He's got money wrapped up in these balloons he doesn't necessarily need at the moment. He's behind in economy. He's behind on tech. And the Badger's almost here. And Trumpet's putting together a very powerful army. You know, maybe Pez can bait the fight to happen underneath his balloons. Utilize the Skunk's Well to knock out the squirrels of his opponent. The snake is a nice way to push the ferret away. You know, the snake has the luxury of always hitting where the ferret misses quite a bit. And plus this road here is really nice too to defend against this sort of thing. But the Badger's here. Big Mama Badger. Another desperation balloon on the way. These ferrets are going to get knocked out before the engagement even starts. Pez running in. But all Trumpet needs to do is keep this Badger alive. Most of Pez's army has been deleted here. And now Trumpet is putting pressure on the second base. Pez is going to try to get the wraparound. I like this tactic, but he just doesn't have the numbers, rather. The Badger is such a brutally powerful unit. You know, once you can get it out on the field undetected, you know, your opponent without the proper counters, it can be very difficult to deal with. And Trumpet ties the series up 1-1. Which is awesome. We don't have a 3-0. I think this is a good series. These players seem pretty evenly matched here. I think Trumpet played the macro game better. I think Pez was a little bit on the back foot that kind of round, a little bit timid. It's really easy to lose tempo in RTS games, and it's almost this intangible thing that's very difficult to discuss or communicate. But in the bottom right, we've got Pez. The top left, we've got Trumpet. But tempo is incredibly important, and I've felt like that a lot in StarCraft 2 or Tooth and Tail or in Brood War. If you've ever just kind of got this feeling in the game where it's hard to describe. Like, you're kind of always one step behind your opponent. You're kind of reacting to what they're doing. You're playing their game, right? They're dictating the pace. You know, they're teching before you. They're expanding before you. They've got the tempo. And it's this really helpless feeling almost, where you're not even sure like what you should be doing. Whereas if you're the one dictating the game and you're like, man, I got a plan, I'm gonna rush up to 4 cams, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna deny their natural, you know, that kind of thing, then you've got the tempo in the match. Yeah, tempo is maintaining initiative, says Solomon, exactly. You know, you're setting the pace of the game. You're in the driver's seat. And tempo is very important in RTS. You know, it's hard with Tooth and Tail because you have to come on the fly, but in general, when you to make sure that you have a chance for the tempo, you should be coming into the game with a mindset and a strategy. Like, you should be coming in saying, all right, my strategy this game is going to be to get an early fox and to do some damage, or my strategy is going to be to macro up, build some barbed wire, and get to my owl, you know. Or my strategy is to build up to squirrel, skunk, pigeon, reinforce with some moles, and push in. You know, you generally want to have like some kind of game plan, but you don't want to be too rigid. You want to be able to react to what your opponent's doing. So right now, Pez is trying to take that expansion, and again, I always find it interesting to see... Oh, well, somehow Trumpet hasn't seen it. All right, there it is. Okay, that's an important scout. I always find it interesting to see how players respond to that. Is Trumpet just going to throw down 3 more Tier 1 Warrens and pull the trigger? Or is he going to get his own mill? He's going to get his own mill, and he's going to get the Tier 2 as well. I think that's a solid move. Ooh. Pez with the greed. Throwing down that Owl Warren. Yeah, this is very greedy from Pez. He's trying to get both economy and a Tier 3 very fast. And he's hoping that he can deny this scout. He's got his units in a nice position to continue to do so. You see Trumpet trying to come in, but this is where you got to get a little more clever with your scouting. Come in from this angle or something. As I say that, look, I thought where he just had his units was great. Like, Pez really wants to deny this Tier 3 scout. Maybe Trumpet, if he's really paying attention, could have sniffed it out, because he's only seen a few Warrens, right? It's like, well, what else do you have? I haven't seen any Tier 2 units. You gotta have something. You gotta be spending your money somewhere. You got 5 Warrens there. Well, I've got 5 Warrens, and I've got other stuff, too. So, you must have something. But even if Trumpet doesn't scout this owl, he's got skunks, which are nice against the mice. Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, you gotta find a way to get in there. He is gonna see it now. But it's a little too late to really react to it. However, he knows it's on the way. And luckily for him, Owl is probably the least impactful Tier 3, like, right when it hits the board. You know, it's kind of easy to deal with just a few mice. Especially with this reaction. So many lizards. I think this is a great decision here. You know, Pez is being crazy greedy. He's farming up just as much as Trumpet is. And he invested in a Tier 3. He's got a Tier 2 on the way, but they're not even here yet. Like, Trumpet's army should be able to beat this, no problem. But Trumpet's got to be aggressive. He doesn't want to sit around and let this owl gain value. Yeah, the owl is definitely the Tier 3 that's the least impactful to rush out. You know, something like a badger, boar, fox, or wolf is much... going to add a lot more to the board immediately. This owl is going to get a lot of value over time if you can get there, especially once you can start stacking them up. And so far, this isn't half bad for Pez, actually. He hasn't taken a ton of damage yet, but Trumpet has so many Tier 1 Warrens, and that's really important to emphasize, because since he's got so many Warrens, he's going to be reinforcing so quickly. But this is a really good defense for Pez. Trumpet's having difficulty attacking in. Oh, man. Commits to that mill and doesn't quite get it. This is looking good for Pez. Trumpet kind of had that window to really punish this owl. And the time has passed, and I think Pez has done it here. Nice victory there from Pez. I think Trumpet got a little bit... I think he had a good idea. Like, he took that first fight really nicely, but he kind of had to kill the owl there. Or get some kind of other value. And he overextended into the natural. I think Trumpet's plan of, like, getting all that tier 1 against the fast owl and being aggressive was smart. I just don't think it was quite executed perfectly, and Pez did a great job defending and taking the match there. So on the left, we've got Trumpet. Over to the right, we've got Pez. And another thing about tempo, too, if you've noticed, like, the winner of these matches has been the person with the tempo, right? Like, Pez is the one who dictated that last game. He expanded first. He got to his tier 3 first. You know, he had a very clear plan. And Trumpet didn't quite sniff it out fast enough. And when he tried to attack in, you know, yeah, he did well on the first wave. But the second wave, Pez had a nice hunkered down position. Trumpet really committed to that second base and couldn't quite seal the deal. I like how these players are pretty no-nonsense, though. Like, they seem to have a really good sense for when it's time to tap out. You know, they haven't been overstaying their welcome in games, which I think is cool. You can definitely tap out too early, but I think the surrender times, that's a weird observation. Like, these guys are really good at surrendering. But the surrender times have been spot on, you know? It's basically like, all right, like, I'm not going to win from here. Hope everybody's having fun. I will be back on Sunday, I believe, with some premiere games. I'm pretty excited about that. I'm going to drag AV Ultima in at one of these times. Maybe I can get him in for the finals or something at the very least. I really enjoy casting with AV Ultima. I think having duo casters can make for a little more entertaining of a show. I'm very practiced at solo casting because I've done it so much, but I prefer watching esports with two casters myself. So, pretty straightforward openings. 8 farm double into tier 2 into Expo versus a lot of tier 1 here from Pez. And there's the Expo from Pez. Pez did scout the tier 2, I believe. Oh, he's saving up a lot of money. Is he? Oh, man, you got me excited. So is he going to be a madman? Go for that owl again. Yeah, I think this is appropriate. I think you have a couple early points to Trumpet here. I think his build order was a little bit more refined. 8 farm double into an Expo with a single farm is really nice. Now that he's scouted, his opponent's got a Gristmill. His opponent's got a tier 2 on the way. I would love to see him go up to like 3 farm. I think 3 farm is good there. Did he scout the... Okay, he didn't scout the tier 2. So seeing the mill, I probably would have gone up to 2 farms. But once I got confirmation on that tier 2, I would have went to 3. And I think 2 farms from Pez is a smart decision as well. But gonna go into double skunks. And double skunks is really threatening, man. The amount of gas that they can pour out so quickly is impressive. Let's see if Trumpet can manage a win here. I'd love to see this go to match number 5. And to be honest, so far, I think Trumpet's got a slight advantage this game. Nothing crazy. I just think his opening's been a little cleaner. And there's that owl. All right, man. All right, Trumpet. This is a big scout for you. You got to come in and see that owl. The star sense needs a tingle here. Or he might just throw down a badger regardless. Yeah, throws it down. It's a good timing for one. And he might have been able to infer an owl. Like, Pez is basically doing the same build he did last game. Right? You come in here and you see, alright, he's got, you know, half sat. He's got a couple tier 2, but not a lot. He's got to have something else, right? And again, I think this balloon's a little preemptive. A little preemptive, but not the end of the world. It's just 120 food that could be somewhere else. Now, oh, did he get it? Did he get the scout? He did get the scout. I'd love to see a sell on that balloon. Like, you should feel pretty safe when you see the tier 3. Like, 9 times out of 10. Yeah, especially because you need to build that badger. Nah, sell a balloon, bro. Like, you know an attack's not coming until the tier 3's there. This looks good for Trumpet. As Jacket Man in the chat points out, you know, all the skunks are going to help against the badger, or the owl. And of course, he's got the badger. The badger beating the tier 3. The badger wins against the owl 9 times out of 10. It's not really super cut and dry. You know, tier 2 comes into play as well. Do they have a snake? Do they have falcons? That kind of thing. But the badger's got more combat potential. And with the snakes here as well. Like, this looks good for Trumpet. Badger's not quite out yet. He really can't lose these skunks. A couple of them are going to go down immediately. And here's the badger. That's so many units here from Pez, though. Oh, the owl goes down trying to target fire into the badger. Now Pez is getting desperate and just YOLOing the main. But this badger is absolutely just going to shred through this army. And that main is already mined out for the most part. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, a couple of pigs went down, but they were about to die out anyways. And this is huge for Trumpet. That started off really nicely for Pez. You know, he killed those 2 skunks immediately. He swarmed in, but he got a little too trigger happy trying to kill the badger. Lost the owl. Another owl's already almost here, though. He had the bank for it. Oh my god, he's going to turn this into a base race. This is very smart from Pez. This is probably his only chance to actually win the game, but Pez is sniffed out here. Trumpet knows what's up. Like, it's kind of, on one hand, you know, Pez delayed the attack, but Pez also lost so many units doing that. I don't think it's worth it. Like, yeah, he killed that 1 skunk, but Pez really needs as many, and he's going to juke him out again. Trumpet needs to build a mill. Oh my god, Pez is going to try to sneak this win out from underneath him, and I think he's going to get it. No, Trumpet's going to try to go home. He's got to build a mill immediately. Okay, he's just going to try to defend. He knows if he can hold this, he's going to win the game. He doesn't have the money. He doesn't have the money to build the mill. Oh my god, Pez has got it. The mill starts building, but it's not going to build in time. It's got to be actually complete, and there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Pez takes the series 3-1. Very good decision-making from Pez there. Very, very smart play to try to use his mobility to his advantage and to go around his opponent. That's exactly what he needed to do. Very good. So Pez is going to advance on to the semis. GG, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you all appreciate it. If you showed up late, there is a feast that I just did before this. And I hit a couple replays there, so check that out if you want a little more action. I'm going to end it a little bit early tonight. That's about all the content we have. And I've got the Final Fantasy VII Remake to go play, which I'm super hyped for. So I'll be back, I think, on Sunday. I'm booked up for some more casting. I think we're going to do some premiere matches. Maybe I can, Maybe I can twist AV Ultima's arm to casting with me there. Really well played by Pez in that last game. I thought for sure Trumpet had it, but Pez, with some good bobbing and weaving, was able to outmaneuver Trumpet and get in there for the strike on the neck. So that's it, everybody. Take care. I hope y'all have a wonderful night. Is anybody else streaming? I don't think so at the moment. Oh, we got Tickle Bandit. What's up, Tickle Bandit? We're going to give you a raid. Let's go say hi to Tickle Bandit. Take care, everybody. You're all a bunch of beautiful nerds. I will see y'all on Sunday for some premier quarterfinal matches.